awful lot about, and it's the period from which Arthurian lore stems.
To fill in the gaps of, say, like the Dark Ages, periods of history in which we weren't completely aware of all the events, we decided to go with the Arthurian legend to tell the story of Merlin, the enchanted wizard. It's just so darling that this is his dream and he gets to live it. Oh, this brings me joy to speak about. Daily Wire apparently is in dire straits. And it's a glorious and wonderful thing. It's wonderful to see. One of the biggest independent media empires the right has ever known apparently is collapsing. Why? Well, I think we once again have an example of theater kids being the only true Antifa super soldiers out there. I don't know if you know this, all right, but the James O'Keefe story is kind of darling. If you didn't know James O'Keefe, he made Project Veritas, right? Turns out James O'Keefe, his true dream, his vision, he wanted to have himself a musical theater life. He wanted to be a star. He wanted to be in Oklahoma. He wanted to be in Cats. He wanted to basically be a theater boy because he is a theater kid. He loves dancing. He loves singing. And there ain't nothing wrong with any of that. We should go let people live their dreams, allow men to enjoy pageantry and all that kind of stuff. But he couldn't quite make it in the same way that Ben Shapiro is like a failed screenwriter. And Jeremy Boring also failed Well, I guess he technically has made a couple movies in the Daily Wire film canon. But either way, James O'Keefe apparently was taking thousands of dollars that people were investing into Project Veritas so that he could uncover these stories, do these great scoops, and instead blowing them on his own musical about his own life. And apparently was doing it to such a degree that they had to kick him out of his own company. He was trying to apply to Coachella to be a DJ at Coachella, and obviously Coachella was laughing at him. It's just like, it's a beautiful thing. These right-wingers who are just so obsessed with all, their own personal dreams. I just want to be a theater boy. I want to dance and sing. And then it turns out, if you're going to do that at the expense of your own right-wing operations, beautiful. Yeah, I mean, he did a lot of work there. You have to understand, James O'Keefe, as a secret, communist Antifa super soldier, was actually trying to take down Project Veritas from the inside. And Jeremy Boring might be another example of this, where he has his own passion project, where he apparently wanted to film some ancient historical epic that was super expensive, but it was like, I'll do all the other stuff, all the stuff that you want. We can do all of this kind of like culture war, anti-trans stuff. We'll make that all, but I also have my dreams. And deep down, I know they're expensive, and some of my films might cost $90 million or so to produce, but it's worth it. I make you so much money, okay? He was claiming that he was making the Daily Wire something like $200 million plus in profit. Well, now it's in free fall shambles, apparently. The implosion at the Daily Wire is accelerating. What started with Jeremy Boring stepping down has spiraled into mass layoffs and another firing of a senior executive, Alyssa Cordova, the vice president of public relations. Here's all the juicy details. The Daily Wire just fired Alyssa Cordova, their VP of public relations. According to sources, she was Jeremy's minion and was one responsible for crafting the company's aggressive and paranoid media strategy. Cordova allegedly stalked former employees online, kept folders of clip videos of their enemies, helped wage internal vendettas under the guise of PR. One source, the disaster was their PR strategy over the last year was cooked up between Jeremy and Alyssa. So we know that some people have left the Daily Wire and not on great terms. Candace Owens is one of them. Another one is obviously Brett Cooper, who wasn't allowed to talk about a lot of what actually transpired, but she kind of just quietly left. And when she quietly left, Jeremy Boring was like, that's okay. Women are simply replaceable objects. And I can just get her best friend to pretend to act and talk like her and no one will notice. And everyone did notice. And the views just went like that, straight into the toilet. Turns out the people watching Brett Cooper actually enjoyed Brett Cooper's content. Didn't want to see her best friend try and do a Brett Cooper clone show. But so that one didn't work out too well. And then behind the scenes, obviously, a lot of people have been speculating, especially Candace Owens openly, that Jeremy Boring is just a disaster within the company. And again, not only because he's got a lot of side and passion projects, but shit like this, where he's clearly trying to do this whole, like, you can't do this. I worked in film and television and in media and digital media, and I worked in legitimate companies, that did special effects for big projects and stuff like that, and they sucked. they were the worst. It was predatory. If you're coming in, they're going to take advantage of you. They'll make you sign these terrible contracts that basically try to take all of your intellectual property in exchange for the, one day hope or dream that you might be able to actually make one of your ideas into something. Meanwhile, they work you to the bone, knowing full well that there's a million of you out there who all want this so-called dream jobs, and so they treat you like garbage. That's just the reality of the industry. This sounds 10 times worse. Not only is that going on, but they're actively behind the scenes running it like Scientology, where they try to keep like secret information on all their employees and all their media figures and make sure that they have all this dirt on them at any second time. Like, that's the whole reason you do the whole, like, the thetans at Scientology, where like when people join, they have to pay all this money and they're like, oh, we're going to give you a psychological evaluation. And then you take the psychological evaluation and then they're like, well, based on your thetan levels, it turns out that you probably have massively impure gay thoughts, right? What? No. How do you know that? We have you on video admitting that you have massively impure gay thoughts. You don't want that to get out, do you? You won't have to worry about that as long as you keep joining the program, that kind of stuff. Well, it seems like that was kind of a little bit of the strategy behind the scenes, making it a bit of a hostile environment. Then, mass layoffs. The Daily Wire is shuttering its kids division entirely, roughly a quarter of the company. And internally, people are furious. One source put it bluntly: if they let Jeremy go a long time ago, many people would still have jobs today. Everyone knows it. Okay, that one's also wild. Because so Jeremy basically started a side company called Bentkey. And Bentkey was basically going to be the conservative Netflix for kids, where it's going to be kids programming, original kids programming, and all of it, like, it looks so expensive. Because I worked for a digital media distribution company, and I remember time and time again, it got brought up so many times that anytime we would be entertaining ideas for startups, people would be like, I want to start a Netflix, but a Canadian one. And we're going to focus on Canadian content and culture. Every single time, like the executives, the bigwigs in the room, they would always be like, it's just a disastrous business model. It is very, very unprofitable. It's very difficult to compete with the big ones. It's almost impossible to compete with Disney, Netflix, Hulu, Apple Plus now, because a lot of these companies that actually start up that are doing this, they have money to burn. Amazon Prime can operate on a loss every single year because Amazon, the company, makes them so much money. Apple Plus can lose, again, millions if not billions of dollars every year, and that's fine because they can, again, just do that off the back of the enormous amounts of profits they make as tech companies on the other side. So they have completely weaponized this industry, and it's made it impossible for anyone to try and independently start from scratch unless you just have some kind of a really dedicated user base who's going to just want to focus so much on supporting you, mostly out of like morals and ethics, more so than you'll be able to generate content for them. But Jeremy did it anyway. And so he goes out, spends a shit ton of fucking money, making a handful of original series, which are basically like rip-offs of other cartoons that exist, like, the Blue Dog one and all that kind of stuff. And then they bought up a whole bunch of existing IPs to fill in the gap. Because if you have kids and you're like, hey, we're going to spend $9 a month on this, like, conservative, right-wing, anti-woke Netflix alternative, when the kids click on it, you better hope that there's enough cartoons that they can keep watching. So you start to have to buy up all these other cartoons. So they bought up a lot of cartoons from Europe, where they would basically do translations, or they would just basically make sure that they didn't have any wokeness, they had good like morals and stuff like that, just to fill in the gap. But then you've kind of maxed out, right? Because then you need to start making money on the other end. Because if you're not a big tech company, which Daily Wire is not, then you need subscribers to keep paying for Bentkey to justify spending $10 or $20 million to produce new shows to keep filling up the catalog on Bentkey. It's going to be a continuous cycle that is really hard to sustain. With a quarter of the company gone and its core leadership in flames, the big question is now, what happens to the people still there? Can Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, and the rest stay insulated from the chaos? Yeah, because I don't think they have a lot of like legs to stand on outside of this. I don't see Michael Knowles, people just like rushing at the bit to get him. Matt Walsh maybe, because Matt Walsh has those big documentaries that like, did decently successful, but those again were Daily Wire produced, and that was all part of like, Jeremy Boring's plan. So I don't know. This is all beautiful. Daily Wire president John Lewis resigns amid financial mismanagement following Jeremy Boring's ouster. John Lewis, the president of the Daily Wire, has resigned amid reported financial struggles within the company. His departure follows the recent ousting of CEO and co-founder Jeremy Boring, which sources indicate was linked to an internal backlash regarding financial mismanagement. Insiders suggest that Lewis's resignation was seen as the inevitable given the circumstances surrounding the company's financial state. The Daily Wire, known for its conservative media content, is now facing scrutiny as it deals with leadership changes and the implications for its future operations. They apparently apparently we're in negotiations to acquire Tim Pool's catalog. I think that might have fallen through at this point. They've hired bankruptcy attorneys. Hell yeah. Daily Wire is reportedly facing financial difficulties, having hired a bankruptcy attorney, laid off approximately 25% of its staff. This follows resignation of CEO Jeremy Boring, termination of Alyssa Cordova, Vice President of Public Relations. Despite claims from Ben Shapiro, a prominent figure at the company, the Daily Wire was not going bankrupt and plans for significant moves in the future. The situation has raised concern amongst observers. So, I mean, this is capitalism. They're going to get cannibalized and acquired by other bigger companies and assets, and that's probably what will happen. There's a lot going on here. Jeremy Boring Passion Project. I want to see if he even got a trailer off the ground for it. Because like he was working on the Pendragon Cycle. I think that's what it was called. Jeremy, the Pendragon Cycle. Yeah, all right. Here it is. This is where all the money went. Coming soon. They've wrapped production. Did a Q&A. History comes alive. British accents. You'll never believe this, but in order to have the authenticity that I knew audiences would demand in the modern age, we actually decided to use British accents. So you'll never believe what we sound like. You thought, wait till you see the Pendragon Cycle, it is. It's a 4-book series, but the original publisher opted to stop after the first 3 books, resulting in an abrupt ending to Arthur and the existence of many unexplored stories. The first 3 books were thus originally called the Pendragon Trilogy. Lawhead moved to a new publisher a few years later. It was decided to expand on the trilogy and finish the series. That one became the Pendragon and the Grail. The series is a work of fiction that takes place in the 4th, 5th, and 6th centuries and attempts to present the Arthurian legends and historical settings while representing the story with the reality the reader can connect with. The description of Taliesin and Avalon are narrated in the first person, and except for Pendragon, Grail, and Avalon are each split into 3 sections. Merlin and Pendragon are narrated by Merlin, and then the third of the Arthurs is by Peleus, the second by Bedwyr, and the third by Aenir and Gildas. Grail is most narrated. Okay, but so essentially it's basically like, what if the Knights of the Round Table were real and actually happened, I think, and Merlin was real, and that's it. Bringing the characters to life, a big battle. British accents. Oh, I gotta be a member to see the Pendragon Cycle. That's fair. I get it. You gotta get that bag, you know. Times are tough. Finances are not doing great. The Pendragon Cycle. Trailer. Prepare yourselves, my friends, for what effectively took down the Daily Wire, the passion project of Jeremy Boring, so expensive and ridiculous that now they are in dire straits.
I remember hearing stories when I was a child. Is it true what they say?
The world is ever changing.
The old ways must be left behind. The beginning of a new era is upon us.
Wait, is this fake? It looks fake. Is this a real trailer? Screen culture. Here's our first trailer concept for the Pendragon Cycle. Daily Wire, let us know. It's a series of historical fantasy books based on Arthurian legend. Check it out on the BentKey app here. Please note this is not an official trailer, but something fan-made using footage from the Daily Wire's production diaries. Oh, so far there's no... Oh, so they compilated it based on their things. Well, I'm sure glad all those award-winning commentators expressed that this was fan-made as a pejorative. So I guess you got to subscribe to BentKey, right? Yeah. Wait, I don't want the fan-made shit. I want the actual...
What's the Pendragon Cycle generally about? I have
My apologies. I didn't know I was mispronouncing it. The Pendragon Cycle. All right, sorry. The Pendragon Cycle. Go on.
never heard of this series, but I'm excited to watch. It is about Arthur Pendragon, ultimately, although we don't meet Arthur in the 7 episodes that we've currently shot. It's about sub-Roman Britain, which is the time sort of between the fall of Rome in Britain and the Saxon conquest of Britain. And so it's a period that we don't know an awful lot about, and it's the period from which Arthurian lore stems. one thing I love.
I love that he's trying to be like, to fill in the gaps of, say, like the Dark Ages, periods of history in which we weren't completely aware of all the events. We decided to go with the Arthurian legend to tell the story of Merlin, the enchanted wizard. It's just like, it's just so darling that this is his dream and he gets to live it at the cost of the company.
The series is that it isn't a chivalric, it isn't a French influenced Arthurian tale. It doesn't take place in the high Middle Ages like some of the later Arthurian stories do. It places Arthur more in his historic context. If there was an Arthur, this is when he would have been, and when all the earliest Arthurian legend takes place. And it's about a lot of things that I think are really relevant to us. It's about what is it to be a man. It's about what is it to have a mission. What is it to believe in God and to believe in Christ in a time and in a world that isn't receptive to that. Those are challenging questions, and I think sometimes our politics and our faith.
I feel challenged.
Like everyone, we're products of our environment. We like to think that we're not. We like to think that our ideas are like the true, original, best ideas. But
he's just a nerd, an evil nerd. I know, and God bless all these evil nerds just tanking these evil companies too. It even got apparently Glenn Greenwald to do a story on it. He seems upset.
On developments in right-wing media and politics in the United States. He joins us now to discuss arguably a very explosive event in the conservative media space, namely the departure, you could say the ouster, of the co-CEO and one of the two primary public faces of the Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring, which was announced today. And the Daily Wire has been one of the most successful and influential media outlets in the country, so figuring out what is going on there.
Sorry, what? One of the most successful and influential media outlets in the country. In America? I don't know if outside of, like, the political world, I could get a lot of people to explain what the Daily Wire is.
And what the implications are is something that is of, I think, significance, and Ian is here to help us sort through that. Ian, good evening. It's great to see you. Thanks for taking the time to join us.
Absolutely, Glenn.
This guy is just an anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist of the highest order. It's just wild. So this is where it's all headed eventually. Glenn Greenwald is now using Ian Carroll as a fucking source on this kind of shit. This same dude, the one who's like, I care so much about Jeffrey Epstein and the pedophiles. And then everyone's like, then why are you defending Andrew Tate? We don't fully understand what happened with Andrew Tate. And it's like, but we do. We know exactly what happened with Andrew. What the fuck? Like, I'm sorry. Are you just, you pick your favorite pedophile? Is that how this works? Like, you have pedophile preference? Like, you're going to condemn Jeffrey Epstein, but in the same breath, someone's like, Andrew Tate is pretty fucked up too. And then he's just like, did Andrew Tate actually do it though? We don't know. As you all know, I care deeply about hunting the pedophiles, and that's why. But now he's fucking a Glenn Greenwald source. So that's neat to know. Yeah, anti-vax to the core, by the way. He's one of the people who's so anti-vax that he's actually anti-measles vaccine. Like, he got really mad when RFK Jr. Basically said, like, it's actually a choice, a personal choice people need to make, and understand that the MMR vaccine for measles is different than the mRNA vaccine. And he was like, no, you betrayed us. Then why did autism go up by 25%? Oh, how could you do this, RFK? I can't believe this. Traitor to the cause. And yeah. Glenn Greenwald is like, that guy. Can I get that guy on the show? I need him, the verifiable source. Tell me more. And which pedophiles are you hunting these days, Ian Carroll? Cool stuff.
Week 13 saw the most brutal hand-to-hand combat that happens in the entire first season.
She's had a tough job. I mean, obviously she's American, and she's not just doing a British accent, but she's doing a northern British accent. It's tough for a British actor to do a northern accent well.
I'm admonished. I'm admonished.
The housing market is not broken. It's working as designed. It's designed to benefit the super rich and investors and make the rest of us pay the price. It's designed to jack up our rents and make homelessness skyrocket. Vancouver doesn't have to be this way. We can make housing affordable by closing loopholes landlords use to jack up rents, building affordable public housing, and stopping dem-evictions. I'm Sean Orr, and I'm running to be your next city councillor with COPE. On April 5th, let's fight for Vancouver.
Don't let this happen to you. Go to serfscoffee.com to order the only end-to-end owned indigenous coffee company that delivers blood-free, conflict-free, and cruelty-free beans right to your door. 0% of people who drink serfscoffee.com have exploded spontaneously. By ordering right now, you get 10% off plus free shipping, and it's the best way to enjoy delicious coffee while not exploding. That's serfscoffee.com, serfscoffee.com.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. This video wouldn't be at all possible without the financial support of all the people whose names you see on the screen right now. And if you want to unlock secret bonus episodes, content that we can't post anywhere else, or get the videos early before anyone else gets to see them, please go on to patreon.com/theserfs. For as little as $1, you can help support this channel and help make more videos like this possible. Our executive producers are Anna Loves Riley, Adrian McCarthy, Bobby Lasers, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Garrett Sandoval, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Papi, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Richard Boehm, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Tigwick, Trav, and Words Greenwood. And also, it wouldn't be possible without all the names you see on the screen right now. Again, if you want to help produce this content, it's only made possible through the funding of our patrons. Head on down to patreon.com/theserfs. That's patreon.com/theserfs.